What is happening, my friends? My name is Nathan. Welcome to Motorcycle Training Concepts. So in this video, we're going to talk about 3 tips for you to be successful as a new rider. Pretty much 3 things that I wish I knew and had grounded when I started. I always had the awareness of it from the start. I remember that, but I never put it into practice until years into my riding journey. So here are 3 tips for you to be successful as a new rider. Number 1, it's not a race. So when you first get a bike, it's super exciting. You have no idea what you just did. You're probably thinking, did I just buy a motorcycle? And then when your first time riding it, you're probably going to look down at the tank and see that you're sitting on a motorcycle and be like, what am I doing? This isn't me. But I promise you, I had that feeling too. Eventually the motorcycle becomes a part of you, but you don't have to make that happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. Even if you pick up on some of the fundamentals really quickly, like turning and marrying the throttle and the clutch, if you get some of the skills really quickly, the overall concept looking down at motorcycles, the road strategy, the safety precautions, the understanding body language of other vehicles around you, and then putting the skills that you learn to the test in emergency situations, all of that takes time. So even if you get the fundamentals really quickly, you still need to take your time. It's not a race, and no one's expecting you to be great overnight. And I know that taking the bike to work for the first time and showing it off and being that cool guy who rides a motorcycle to work, that's all great, but no one's going to judge you for being like, hey, I'm still learning. I've only been riding for a few months. I'm not comfortable doing that ride. I'm not comfortable going that fast, or I'm not comfortable doing a group ride yet. I just want to ride by myself. I want to ride in a controlled environment, whatever you want to do. But know your limitations and then understand that it's going to take time to become really, really proficient at it. It's a skill like anything else. If you were to pick up skiing and you've never skied before, you're not going to become an expert at that overnight. So buying a motorcycle is no different. So you buy it, it becomes part of your garage, your lifestyle, but riding it properly and effectively is a skill that takes time. And number 2 is practice, practice, practice. Now, before you click off, I heard the same thing when I first started. Everyone was always telling me to practice, 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 but I never knew of any convenient ways to practice. It was always practice, but how? No one ever told me how. Because here's the thing. Developing the clutch, the throttle, the brakes, and all of that is basic. But then you've got regular basic, which is like swerving, emergency maneuvers like braking and finding escape routes. Accelerating can be a way that you can escape something. But in the heat of a moment, you are not going to do something that you haven't trained your body to do. You can conceptualize it all you want. You can think about, hey, if in this situation, what would I do? But until you put it into practice, until you actually practice those maneuvers, in the moment you're in red stage, you need to move. Your body is going to immediately do what you practice. So if you practice bad habits like honking or rev bombing or pulling your clutch, if you practice those bad habits in non-emergency situations, then when your life depends on it, you're going to do those things. You're going to do those bad habits. So here's where you can practice really good habits like looking for escape routes, swerving, braking, buying time and getting out of there. Those are things that you can practice in a parking lot where you can set up cones and you can train your body to do what's proper. Because here's the thing, special operators do this. They've probably spent hundreds of thousands of repetitions doing basic things like drawing from a holster, like reloading, like you name it. Basic things. For a special operator in an emergency, they're thinking, there's the threat, let me neutralize that threat and take care of my buddies at the same time, make sure everyone gets out of here okay. But their body is just doing it. Their body's making everything happen and they're working as a cohesive unit. You can train all that in a motorcycle too. You can train swerves, you can train braking, you can train all that and do more than you think you need to of repetitions of basic movements, of practicing those things. You get familiar with doing things like U-turns and figure eights and leaning it over, and you start doing that competitively. You add a little bit of stress to it. Maybe you got your buddies are watching you, so that's kind of stressful. Maybe you got a timer going, that's kind of stressful. You start adding little stress factors to the drills. You can make your body learn exactly how to operate your motorcycle in an emergency so that if your life depends on it while you're riding, you know good habits and your body knows good habits and you're going to execute on good habits. And the third one's kind of my favorite. You got to give yourself some overhead to make mistakes, because as a new rider, you're going to be making mistakes. So there's a dichotomy there of, yeah, you're going to make mistakes, but you're only going to grow when you push to the edge of what's comfortable. If you're just commuting to work and it's the same exact ride and you don't have to turn very much, it's a straight shot to work, you're going to get really, really good at driving to work, but you're not going to get really good at riding a motorcycle. And a controlled environment doesn't have to be a parking lot and cones. That is a great option, but it's not necessarily going to teach you how to ride a curvy road. for example, a mountain road or a canyon road. Those are pretty technical roads, and knowing how to navigate those is going to take practice as well. A Wednesday mid-morning is going to have a lot less traffic on those kind of roads than, let's say, Friday midday. So you can choose the best possible scenario for practicing what you want to practice. And if you find something's uncomfortable and you go and accomplish that, you're going to gain confidence to learn the next thing and push to the next boundary. And you can do all these things in controlled environments. So pretty much what I'm saying is, if riding on public roads is uncomfortable and it makes you nervous, and you don't want to do that because riding on the public roads is just that next step, then keep practicing cone drills until you get really, really proficient at them, to the point where you're not thinking about the bike's handling or the clutch or the throttle and the braking. Get really, really good at parking lot to the point where you don't think about it. And then when you go out onto the road for the first time, then you don't have to think about your clutch or your throttle. Those are already baked in. Like I said before, you do repetitions enough times that when your mind is elsewhere, say focusing on traffic and focusing on street lights and other things that happen to you out in public roads, the last thing you think about are the fundamentals. And that's where I can tie all three of these together, because it's not a race. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be even okay at it overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take more time than probably you want it to. But I promise it's worth it in the end to take the time, be patient with it, and practice, because practicing all your fundamentals and doing the repetitions enough times is going to teach you one step at a time. Once you are learning a skill enough times and you're practicing enough times so that it's no longer uncomfortable, that's when you can expand your controlled environment to learn something new. And you're only going to grow and get better if you push to the edge of that comfort zone and then play around up there until it's no longer uncomfortable. I remind you that as a new rider, everything is going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to be good at it. You're not going to be confident. Even if you pick up some skills right away, you need to control your ego. Because if you learn a couple of fundamentals really, really quickly, your ego is going to go through the roof and you need to throttle that back. Remember, it's not a race. And those are my 3 tips that can help new riders be successful. I wish I put these into practice when I first started, but now that I've learned everything through trial and error, I'm hoping that I can share this with at least one person to make their journey a little bit smoother than mine was. All right, cool. Ride safe, ride smart, and I'll see you in the next video.